Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle, as well as host of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, today is Tuesday, and that means that we are one day away from the House of Representatives having introducing articles of impeachment against President Trump. The House intends to charge the president with incitement to riot. We assume that the votes are there for the impeachment. There will be no hearings, as there usually are. There'll just be a straight up or down vote. The Democrats have a slight majority, and Pelosi will probably get the votes. And then it moves to the Senate, and apparently the trial would not start until January the 19th or January the 20th, and maybe even after that. There are obviously many things one can say about it. What's particularly interesting is that this charge, incitement to riot, is an extraordinarily flimsy one. Because if one looks at just simply the timeline, President Trump begins to speak 11:45 a.m. and finishes speaking at around 1:15 p.m. The first skirmishes that took place outside the Capitol building took place at about 12:45 p.m. In other words, at the time when the president was still speaking. And keep in mind that there are at least 45 minutes. It takes at least 45 minutes to get from where the president was speaking to the Capitol building. So those people who were actually breaking into the Capitol building had not heard the speech. They were already outside the building demanding trouble. The people who did hear the speech walked passively, good-humoredly up to the building and did not even know what was actually going on inside the building. They had no awareness. I mean, many people have said, I didn't know anything about that was happening until I got back home to my hotel room and I saw the on the television screen. So there is that. And the second thing is that even if some people, took matters into their own hands and started getting violent and rioting, it would still be a flagrant violation of the understanding of free speech in the United States. So the operative law is the so-called Brandenburg decision from 1969, which declared that basically you can speak freely and you cannot convict anyone for inciting violence unless there is a real imminent threat of violence. So even if you say, oh, I want to kill the president, I mean, unless there is actually somebody there with a gun aiming at the president, that speech is protected. So this is a violation of constitutional protections, and it's also a violation of the First Amendment protection. All right, Peter, what's your take?
Well, this is protected speech, and I looked very carefully at what Trump had to say. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, go support the effort to look into what happened with the election. I mean, that's all fair game. That's not, he didn't provoke them. I mean, it gets all down to agency. I mean, his words could be interpreted any way you want, I suppose, okay? But the way he delivered them is that he wasn't inciting violence whatsoever, okay? And that is protected speech. So what this process is doing, it's actually degrading two things. First and foremost, the First Amendment. And second of all, again, trivializing impeachment. I mean, this is a lose-lose all the way around, okay? And what kind of trial would it be? I don't understand what that's, again, are we going to dust off all of the findings of the Supreme Court and what free speech means? Okay, are there witnesses going to be called? I mean, also, okay, not only do the free speech is at stake here, also the impeachment process, but what about due process, okay? This looks like they want to turn it into like a runaway jury. And they're all doing it in the name of the rule of law. Well, this is a mockery of all of it, okay? And this is obviously politically motivated. Now, okay, I guess I'm just not a very smart guy. I mean, they're going to continue after he leaves the White House. I don't understand that, because the whole process of impeachment is to remove an individual from that office. He will be out of office. So there is no standing. There's no standing, okay? There's nothing to prosecute. The person that is being targeted for prosecution is no longer an office holder. So this is absolutely ridiculous to me, okay? Maybe there's a way, I don't get it, okay? I mean, there's no longer a defendant. The defendant is gone.
Well,
And that defendant is no longer an office holder.
yes, I mean,
What kind of sense is that?
right. Well, I think that's a good argument. I mean, that's certainly an argument, but that doesn't preclude the Senate from going ahead and doing it. And there's no question they will do it. Now, the Supreme Court may weigh in at some point and say, yes, indeed, the impeachment clause in the Constitution states a removal from office and preventing the person from, preventing that person from running for any office again. But that's down the road if and when the Supreme Court makes that ruling. The question is this going to take place? And I would say, yeah, it's more than likely that it will take place. There will be a trial in the Senate. As things stand, it looks like the votes are not there for a conviction, but it is going to take place. And so the constitutional questions, which are certainly interesting, and that's certainly the position of scholars like Dershowitz, but nonetheless, it will take place.
Well, I don't know. We probably will fall on a disagreement here. I mean, I think if the office holder that is being targeted for this process, the president of the United States, if he is no longer president of the United States,
I know that argument.
Will say, well, he's gone.
We're not arguing about that now. We're not arguing about that. We're saying it is going to take place. Now, whether the Supreme Court will accept that and whether it passes constitutional muster is a different issue. It will take place, and so and therefore they will have a trial, obviously a mockery of a trial, but more than likely he will not be convicted as things stand, unless something happens in the next few days. But they're going to go ahead and do this in much the same way as they're going to go ahead and do this ridiculous vote in the House without any of the, as you said, due process of protections that anybody should have, which is you present evidence on your behalf, you have lawyers arguing on your behalf, and all of that is gone. They're just going to have an up and down vote in the House. So yeah, I mean, it's they are reckless, dangerous, but they're going to go ahead and do it.
The legacy of all of this is everyone will rue the day. Another reckless, flimsy impeachment process, which is normalizing impeachment. This impeachment was supposed to be an extreme measure. Okay, and as the founders envisioned it, it would have a very strong bipartisan supermajority backing, not only within the political establishment, within Congress, but public opinion as well. This is, when we think about what happened last Wednesday, which was appalling, and you're not going to get any apologies from you or me on this, and anyone that's watching this that expects an apology shouldn't be watching this, okay? Yeah. But I mean, but the point is here is that this is turning into just grievous spite. And if you want to rile up the Trump supporters and people that do not want to get involved in any kind of form of violence whatsoever, this is going to be like indelibly stamped on their conscience. They did it to him again on the way out. Look at the tape you gave. I think you started out our video perfectly using the timelines. Okay, someone can say something, you could listen to a leader and you can interpret it what it means to you, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that was the intent. And you'll never be able to approve intent. You can't, okay? And so this is just a wild goose chase, a fishing expedition, and all it is trying to do is stain Trump's legacy. And, you know, at this point in time, don't you think it's probably better to start moving forward? Because if you really want to annoy Trump's base, just go ahead and do it. Now, the other issue that's in play here, it's not getting a lot of traction, but I think it could, is to censure Trump, which something did happen to Andrew Jackson in 1834. And we can go into the reasons for that, but and it's kind of mundane. But that is one thing here. I think what's really most important, and it's something that you brought up over the course of videos that we've made on this topic here, and I think it's most important actually. If Trump gets impeached by the House, so what? I mean, I really could care less. Okay, now, as it goes into the Senate, that's a different story. I still don't think the votes are there. Now, you've given very good reasons why the votes may come about, and they're very well thought out, okay? But the real issue here is somehow barring Trump to run for office again. Now, that is what's the most important issue here, right. Okay? And we're in virgin territory on this one, okay? I don't think that's ever happened before, certainly not with the president, okay? But that's what, and you brought it up originally because that's the ultimate goal of this whole process, to insult Trump and smear Trump. Yeah, he's experienced it for 4 years. I mean, it's not going to stick here. His base is going to see it is farcical, so it has no impact on them. And of course, you know, the cable stations get themselves all up in a lather. The cover, 24/7, coverage of the impeachment, which they all love to do, but people are tired of it. It does a really disservice to the next administration. I mean, next week, over the next 8 or 9 days. Hang on, let me just finish, and I'll tell you. Okay, they're going to be talking about this, and the new administration has no hearings on its cabinet. I mean, what are these people thinking about?
No, I mean, if they cared about that, then they could have easily stepped in. Biden could easily step in and say, I don't think this is a very good idea. And I don't think we should go ahead with it because I have an agenda and I really want to push forward my agenda and my nominations and so on and so forth. He hasn't done it. So
it shows his weakness.
He's implicitly supporting this. Now, the question of the wisdom of this is really not important. I mean, they are out to destroy Trumpism. They're out to destroy.
They're going to destroy themselves.
Any possibility of a populist movement emerging ever again, because it's essentially a warning. You want to go down this path of shaking the system up, attacking powerful interests. This is what you are going to get. We're going to impeach you until you're beaten into submission. And most politicians are not really like Trump. I mean, Trump is quite exceptional in just simply withstanding all of these things. I mean, this is the second impeachment in 4 years, and he seems to be, apparently from newspaper reports, he seems to be taking it, reasonably in his stride. But others, are not like that. I mean, somebody like Bernie Sanders, he would fold like a house of cards if he were put under such pressure. So that's really the lesson here. And so therefore, don't ever try to shake things up because this is what you are going to get. And that's why I don't think censure, anyone's going to be happy with censure. Maybe some Republicans would say, oh yeah, let's go for censure. But there's no way that Pelosi or any of the Democrats are going to accept this. They want to go full steam ahead, impeachment, and a clear vote by the Senate that Trump cannot run again for any public office. That's the goal.
Again, neither one of us are lawyers, and of course we're keeping tabs on this story here. I just don't see how you can do it. I mean, if Congress were to pass a law forbidding Donald Trump to
They
run.
can't
for
do that
office.
by themselves. No, they can't. That would be a constitutional violation. Just simply
Of course.
passing a law that would be against the Bill of Attainder. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't pass a law specifically prohibiting one person from running for office again. That would be a Bill of Attainder. You can't do that. So that's why they have to go down this path of impeachment, and therefore that he cannot run for public office.
Yeah, but I mean, then I have a question for you. I mean, would Trump have any recourse? Could he go to the courts and say that the Congress overreached?
I would have thought so. I mean, I think, he could certainly make the argument that you were making, and the argument that Dershowitz is making and others are making, that you cannot have an impeachment trial after the person is no longer in office. I mean, he can certainly make that argument, and he may well prevail. But that's down the road. That's not going to happen, until quite a while will elapse. But yeah, I mean, I would have thought he would have that recourse.
Well, that's like a woman, divorcing her dead husband. I mean, there's no bond. The bond is gone. Okay.
Right. No, that's certainly a good argument. It's just not an argument that is going to prevail in the next few weeks. I think the trial will take place. So,
George,
that's an issue for the courts later on.
We've been told for years that Trump breaks all these norms. All the norms that have been broken, it's been by the Democrats, by the media. They've rewritten the rule book because there are no rules now, and there are no values now. This is such a shambles, and it is so unnecessary. It is just the politics of spite and grievance, and it doesn't do any of us any good. I mean, Nancy's going to screw this one up too, and that will be her legacy. Okay. Her obsession with Trump and tearing up the speech and all of that. I mean, what a shambles this all is, okay? As far as I'm concerned, Trump's on the ropes, okay? He's ending his administration in the worst possible way that you could imagine for any president in the entire history of the country, bar Richard Nixon, okay? Because he left humiliated, all right? But Trump will leave on the ropes, but still standing. And what this does is that this is the problem with these people. They can't imagine what a Trump supporter thinks. They can't imagine that. And that is their huge mistake. And they do it at their peril. With everything, with the election now, with this parlor thing, taking people off of social media. I mean, this is just absolutely reckless, and it's very authoritarian. And there's no stop on it.
Well, that's clearly the goal here. The goal here is to beat people into submission, so to demoralize Trump supporters and say, okay, you don't like it. What you going to do about it? We know what happens in these elections. We figured out that there's a formula for winning elections. You just have mass mail-in ballots, and you can express your grievances on social media. But whoops, hey, where's the social media gone? You don't control any of that. And that's really the goal here, that there really no mechanism for people to express their grievance and their aspiration, at least for some, either whether it's a return of Trump or some figure who can give voice to people's frustration. And I think that's ultimately the objective. You better accept this rule of ours. Pelosi, Schumer, Biden, Harris, that we're going to be here for a long time. We're going to bring in, and this is something we'll talk about in future podcasts. We're going to have a new Patriot Act against domestic terrorism, and we can loosen all of the restraints on law enforcement by having an extremely vague understanding of what terrorism means. So be careful what you post and what you tell your friends.
Yeah, after we had months and months of violence in cities and towns burned to the ground, businesses destroyed, lives destroyed, and no one on the left condemned that. No one condemned the burning of America in the summer of 2020. Mostly peaceful protesting, and people have grievances. This was part of reparations. Wow, they really went out in left field, okay? And somehow looting is, a remedy for what happened in 19th century America. But then the bill's been paid. Okay, get off it. And now this again, the people that committed these heinous acts on Capitol Hill have really damaged our arguments, okay? Because you and I have been consistent 100%. We don't. All this kind of stuff abhors me. It never solves anything.
But that's again, you're talking about the sort of the mostly peaceful. But it's kind of interesting that that categorization of mostly peaceful doesn't apply to the Trump supporters, because of course, again, as happened last Wednesday, the Trump people who came to Washington that day were overwhelmingly peaceful. 99% of them were mostly peaceful. And it's clear that, one of the reasons why the Capitol Police was unprepared is that they thought that it would be peaceful.
They
didn't think, because in fact there have been Trump rallies before. There was one in November, there was one in December in DC, and both of them were peaceful. What violence took place was when Antifa started attacking the Trump supporters. So therefore, no one thought that there would be violence. So, but again, that's not the fault of the Democrats.
Well,
and of course, their media, acolytes, just who of course categorize everybody as violent.
Yeah, a guy dressed up as Chewbacca from Star Wars. Okay, and the picture that I have in my mind of that is the guy carrying the podium, smiling for the camera. Is like, I got a souvenir from the Capitol. Okay, which it was. I'm going to just presume right now, which he probably or his friend sent out all on social media. Well, look what happened to us. Oh my God, are these people that if you want to intentionally stir up trouble and throw blame on others, I think you're going to probably be a little bit more discreet, okay? But they aren't discreet. These pictures are coming in all over in social media. But the guy dressed as Chewbacca walking around the Capitol, I don't think he was armed. He didn't look like it. He looked high to me.
Right,
okay.
Right. One other thing one should mention is the contemptible way in which the senators and congressmen and congresswomen behave. Utterly pusillanimous. They all just sort of bolted in absolute terror and just sort of were under their desks for I don't know how many hours. These are minor skirmishes. We talked before about, well, how did General de Gaulle behave when he was shot at? He just stood there, trying to find out, who the hell is shooting at me? These people just dived under the covers. And let's keep in mind that these are also the people who don't hesitate to vote to send American servicemen to fight wars here, there, everywhere. They're all gung ho to bomb the hell out of whoever or invade whoever. But the slightest hint of violence, and then pow, they just sort of vanish in absolute terror. They again, a really pathetic lot.
Yeah, really thin skin. Yeah, it's really easy to vote for another war. That's the only thing that's bipartisan about Washington, are these stupid wars and outrageous defense spending. That's what they. But you're right. They would all prefer to see it all on a video game. Okay, so they don't want to see what it does here. And just to kind of continue the analogy here is that the kind of political environment these people have created. This is the kind of intentional political environment that the intelligence community does in foreign countries to cause unrest and uncertainty and to take advantage of it. Okay, and so this whole playbook has come home. And it's because a lot of people are just amazingly dishonest, very dishonest. And the lack of equal application. This is what's going to, this is the path they're going down. Instead of taking a breath and taking a step back and say, whoa, you can't go here. You can't go in this area. But they're going to do it full throttle. Right. And it's not going to end. It's not going to end because it's going to be this endless tit for tat, back and forth. and it will be asymmetrical. And you know what? What is the value of democracy? What is the value of voting after all of this here? What's the value of believing in the law? Okay,
Well,
this is so reckless.
No, that's exactly. I mean, there's going to be no symmetry because, I mean, the people who are going to be put on trial for the riot on last week will be facing DC courts, DC juries, and they are very, very
You know what that means
to Trump supporters. So they're all looking at doing serious prison time. Even though we can talk about all of the things that happened in the summer, the siege of the federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon, the burning of the police station in Minnesota,
the attack on federal buildings.
Yeah. All of that. Those people walked. So yeah, it's very much unequal. And yeah, that's the thing. Now, of course, what's also interesting is that they're going down this path of an incitement to riot. This becomes a kind of a blank check to go after any politician, because you can, or any politician that you don't like, or at least not liked by the media, by the courts, and whatever, and say that, hey, the consequences of your words could be violence, and therefore, again, throw the law, full force of the law at that person.
This is so Kafkaesque. It's so Kafkaesque. I mean, I'm coming across reports that people that are somehow affiliated or associated with some of the people that committed these acts on Capitol Hill, they are being tarred as being a domestic terrorist, okay, because of association or just merely being a Trump supporter. And we already mentioned it. It's already happening. I mean, this was right before, you and I were talking this, right before Parler was taken down. Now the list comes up, no fly list. Okay, all kinds of things now. You can't, who knows? You can't open a bank account, okay? It's endless here. And what is maddening is that they're going after half the country.
Right. Yeah, half
the country.
Yes. Yeah. It certainly is divisive, but as I say, I think that behind it is the intent to crush that dissent, the dissent that actually calls into question all of the nonsense that goes on.
Well, then you're going to have to open up some really large re-education camps, because you're going to have to fill it up.
Right.
Because you just can't do it. You just can't do it. All right. And what'll happen is, and this is the great divide that we're seeing before our eyes, and everyone's looking into the abyss, because what they did to Parler, which you and I will talk about separately as the story develops here, is that just a clear message is that, we're going to have dual internet, it just, I'm on this one and you're on that one. Okay. And that is the worst possible world that you can go into, because then you won't know the other. Now, the left doesn't want to know people, conservatives. They just don't. Okay. And you and I come from the tradition is that we should listen to each other first before we disagree. Okay. But they just want an iron curtain. Hey, it's come back in 2021. The Iron Curtain.
Dual internets may not actually even be an answer, because, of course, those who are on the other internet could easily become targets for FBI investigation. There's something automatically suspicious about you if you're using, say, Russia's internet or China's internet. So that may not be a real answer. It's a little like the dark web. I mean, the dark web. The moment you get onto the dark web, you're in the FBI's crosshairs. So that the dual internets may actually be a rather perilous situation.
Yeah, but George, I just have to reiterate it. And we're not looking at a few hundred or a few thousand people. We're looking at tens of millions of people. I mean, is this the path they really want to go down? Oh my God. Then you're just basically saying civil war, game on. Okay, and I don't want to go there. You don't want to go there.
Yeah, but I think the reason they're going down this path is they know that they're in a very weak, vulnerable position. I mean, if you're in a strong position, you don't care about your opposition, you don't care about dissent, because you're confident that you are in charge. I mean, it's like going back to what we were talking about the other day. I mean, why did the Bolsheviks impose the brutal dictatorship that they did impose? Well, because they knew that almost the entire country was opposed to them. They didn't want the rule of the Bolsheviks, so they had to impose a very ferocious dictatorship that, of course, then eventually came back to within the party. But that's what this is really all about. I mean, they know perfectly well that nobody ever really wanted Biden, nobody wanted Harris, nobody wants Pelosi. They're all very unpopular figures. And they, intend to enact, all kinds of policies that had no real support in the country. So they need to crack down on dissent at a very early stage.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that you brought up the issue of the Bolsheviks, because they came to power using violence, and then there was the Civil War, and they had the complete militarization of the party, and an absolute complete commitment of every member of the party. It was very militarized. And then when the Civil War came to an end and they were triumphant, that same mentality maintained, in my opinion, Stephen Cohen would disagree with me, but it essentially maintained to the very end, where you had a mentality, a mindset of always enemies, and there's always a purity test. Okay, and the Soviet Union, people in the Soviet Union paid dearly for those purity tests. This, what's happening now. Very rarely, George, do new things happen. Okay, the only thing really big difference is the technologies that are involved. Okay, it's so fascinating, because I've been actually, in my free time, I read a lot of history, of Russian history, Soviet history, European history, and it's these patterns over and over again. And you know what, George? They always end badly, because you're not asking for consent; you're demanding it. And when you demand it, you lose.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. And that's what's really happening. I mean, this election was a joke. It's widely seen by many people in the country as a joke. Even the people who voted for Biden know deep down that this was a joke. They have this person. I mean, just look at him. Look at Biden. I mean, that's the president. I mean, he can barely utter a few words coherently.
He's got a real problem with numbers too.
With numbers, and then you got Harris with that awful cackle. So people have to put up with this for 4 years. Pelosi, with her ranting and raving. She was ranting and raving about Putin again the other day. Schumer's smarmy, condescending smirk. So this is what people are going to have to put up with. So, you really have to, crack down on the opposition that is, bubbling up immediately.
You bring up a fascinating point, and it adds to your thesis here, is because Biden, Harris, Biden have no traction, and probably not even really within the party, because it was just an anti-Trump vote. It wasn't for these two nobodies, as far as I'm concerned. But I think that, unfortunately, you're absolutely right, is that because this is not going to be a particularly popular administration, and the media is going to have a very difficult time talking about it, because if you challenge them, that means you're helping the other side, because now we have barricades. Okay, and so how do you keep the attention away from a very uninteresting administration that doesn't have popular support? And I mean, if you look what's inside the party, the Democrats are seething because their own civil war is starting. And what do? What's the news going to be? The insurrectionist. That's what we're going to get. The next big insurrectionist guy is in Des Moines, okay, or in Spokane, or in Mobile, okay. And I think that's going to be a constant theme right there. Looking for enemies, exactly what regimes do. To keep their grip on power and to control the discourse is look for enemies endlessly, because there are wreckers everywhere. We learned that from Soviet.
That's exactly right. And when Biden was talking the other day about the white nationalists who were there, the anti-Semites who were there, and then Pelosi was also talking about whiteness and so on. So yeah, this is what it is. It's like, you just use these buzzwords in order to demonize your enemy. Here are perfectly ordinary, moderate people who supported Trump, but you use these smear words in order to think, well, hey, they're all secretly KKK supporters. So that's what they're doing. You just use these buzzwords in order to destroy the reputation, and then most scarily use the criminal law against them.
And be careful of all Star Wars fans. I think it's coded language there. Got to be careful. Keep your eyes open, George, okay? Never, ever sleep at night. Keep one eye open in the corner, okay? This is the kind of environment they're creating. It is ridiculous. It's so counterproductive, because what's it all about? It's not about ideas. It's not about policy. It's about maintaining power.
That's it. That's right. Well, we will, of course, be maintaining our laser-like focus on what happens in Washington. It's going to be a big week, so do please keep following The Gaggle. And remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.